everyone in YouTube land. I am actually coming to you guys with an Addy review, and this Addy review involves her quilts. So I do have Addy's bed and bedding from the Mattel line that was featured with this Addy, who is a Mattel Addy. And then I have the Be Forever quilt that was featured with the Be Forever Addy. And so right now they're in this setup, and I didn't bring out her birthday set yet that has the cherry pie and whatnot, because in one of her, well actually in Happy Birthday Addy, it talks about how she brings out a china set that has lavender in it. And so this one happens to have lavender in the roses that are featured here, along with the pink roses as well. So there are little bits and pieces of her bedtime accessories, like you have the Ida Bean doll with her Mother Goose book with the hieroglyphics, and her lantern, which is a key part in her story. It has more to do with Addy's surprise than it does anything else. So, but I'm still happy to feature it here with her birthday set. So here is Addy's bedding from her Be Forever set, and it's mostly blue, and it came with the mattress as well as the pillow and the actual bed, as well as the headboard, which is also part of it. But you can see that there's the hand with the heart. So almost wear your heart on your sleeve, maybe. The Addy tends to do that. It has the flowers, signifying, I guess, beauty and nature. The yellow bird, which is crucial to Happy Birthday Addy, with the caged bird. The house, which could represent the house on Society Hill, or it could represent the plantation. It could also represent the boarding house, or how important real estate is to African Americans. Family, how the significance of how important it is to have a unified family, which was very important for Addy and her family to be reunited. You have the orange grove with the zebras, so that could be significant to a fruitful society. Let's see, this bird with the flower, another flower motif. And this could signify Addy's roots, how it stems from her roots in Africa and her ancestral heritage. So it could have a lot to do with her necklace and how that was passed down to her along with her name. And so going back to this picture, it could signify how her ancestors came to America from the continent Africa, and how rich in resources Africa was and still is, and just the lion and the tiger and the moon. I don't know, just everything that you know Africa to be as far as such a rich continent, rich in natural resources, diamonds, coal, ivory. So yeah, all that is part of her quilt to signify how important African heritage is to African Americans. So I guess the color blue could signify royalty. And on the other side, this fabric matches the pillow. So I really like that. And underneath this quilt is my son's quilt. So I'm not going to show you. This is the underside of his quilt, just like this is the underside of Addy's quilt. So I like the significance of doing this review with my son's quilt, my youngest, in the video. So that is the Be Forever Addy's quilt. So I'm going to show you the Mattel quilt and then do a comparison. So I picked up the Mattel Addy's quilt under American Girl Be Forever when it was on clearance, because American Girl didn't want anything left over from Addy's original line once Be Forever came out. So they repackaged this one so that they could sell it on clearance. And I waited as long as I could, and then finally got it on clearance. So I'm so glad that I finally have it. And the quilt is roughly the same. You still have the same pictures with the hand and the flowers and the yellow bird, but the colors are just different, as well as the trimming and the scalloped edges. Okay, it's hard to get it in one frame, but there they are side by side. So here we go. I can kind of show you how the edges look with the pictures. And then if I fold this up, you can see the trees with the zebras, the family, and the birds, and the final piece here. And then the underside is still the same fabric used, except again the edges are just different. So quilting was a big part of Addy's story, and it was very significant to the African American community, because remember that it was illegal and forbidden to teach slaves how to read. And so slaves had to be resourceful. And some masters did think that this was an injustice, and they did try to teach their slaves to read. But other slaves taught one another how to read. Some people had it, I guess, better than others in the institution of slavery, but that's how awful the institution was, where education for slaves was forbidden. Very different from how it is now, where anyone who wants an education can get it. But education is very important to the African American community because of the history that came out of slavery. Quilting was something that slaves used to do also to support the Underground Railroad. Because there were a lot of slaves that could not read, signs would have been useless. So a lot of slaves would put things in pictures where it would show a picture of maybe a house and an arrow pointing north, signifying that there was an Underground Railroad station nearby where the slaves could hide. So a lot of times slaves would hang quilts on the line to give direction through the pictures on the quilt. So that's another thing that's featured in American history that is quite relevant to Addy's story. And a lot of people will even say Addy the doll is irrelevant to this day. But Addy's story is always so powerful because it does teach resilience, and it does teach people to be resourceful and to just have faith and to be, well educated. Because Addy, at the end, she did end up going to school and working hard to educate herself, and she never felt sorry for herself. So that's something that I think Addy's story does teach, is to always use whatever resources you have at hand, whether it's knowing how to sew, whether it's knowing how to fix a broken lantern or lamp, whether it's teaching others how to read for the first time. There's always something you can learn from Addy's story. All right, so stay tuned for part 2 of the whole Addy quilt review.